So hello, today we are joined by Padmini. Padmini, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks so much for having me, Kelly. Yes, my name is Padmini Pandya, and I was an organizational psychologist and corporate strategist, and I worked for a long time in Asia. But I have now moved into content, and I have a YouTube channel called Pieces of Miss Minnie, where I share the lessons of my life, one memory at a time. I have an eclectic background as a fourth generation East African British Indian American. My family's been on four continents in three generations. I'm the daughter of immigrants and refugees and have lived in about four countries myself and have been married, divorced, a bunch of ex-boyfriends, embarrassing moments. I've seen a lot of the world. There's been a lot of joy, a lot of heartbreak. Living an adventurous life is not for the weak of heart. I have a lot of stories. I'm 45 now and my life has been pretty fast. And I wanted to share the stories and sort of let people see not just like the complexities, really for their own benefit, not so much for mine, but really to have them see a lot of different sides of a story. And also there's a lot of laughter. It's kind of like my personal love letter to our lives.
That sounds really interesting. Well, your memories on your YouTube channel, do you just like remember things and then start talking about them, or is there a format that you use, or?
It's topical, but it ranges. Say, my first episode ever, which was last year, was about financial freedom and these two Furla handbags that I bought while I was living in Singapore. And basically, it was about the handbags, just because one in particular has really traveled the world with me. But what the story was really about was the empowerment and the self-respect and the safety and that I had basically given myself because I had left my marriage when I was 31 years old. We were living in South Florida in Miami, and I basically moved to Asia on a one-way ticket and restarted my life from completely zero at the age of 31. And by that time I was 33 and I had, a pretty solid corporate job in Singapore, and I was really like making my way in the world as an independent professional woman. And I could take myself shopping and, spend a nice chunk of change and not worry about it, and just like how far I had come and that I was so proud of myself. But also like episode three was a very tough episode for me. Most of them are not tough, but say episode three, episode eight were tough ones. But like, episode three, I tell this story about how when my ex-husband passed away a couple of years ago, how a lot of our former friends, how atrociously they behaved and how poorly they treated me. And I think a lot of people thought I would stay quiet about that. And so did I. But, the amount of healing it gave me. And also, I think there are so many complicated stories in our lives that are neither black nor white. And there are a lot of gray emotions, and they're often more than even just two sides to the story. And your feelings about it change. And he passed away. We didn't get any closure. I had really spoiled these friends for a lot of years, and they treated me like very, very poorly, intentionally. And or a vacation tradition an ex-boyfriend of mine had where he used to like buy me a surprise piece of like nice jewelry or something. Or, unfortunately, a pretty rough relationship with a psychologically, complicated man, or, getting hit on at a restaurant by a younger man. It ranges. Like I tell so many stories.
Yeah, I think that's a really difficult topic to approach, the death of someone, because, well, especially because we have such complicated relationships in modern times. Like, we don't always stay married to the same person, and with the blended families and stuff. And we have had a couple of women on the podcast in the past talking about the death of the husband. I think they were both married to the husbands at the time.
They were widows. Yeah.
Yeah, but also it like that situation, I have come across it before myself, where, you know, it's like, who do you invite to the funeral? Like, it can be really awkward, and I suppose nobody wants to talk about it. It's a really difficult time anyway. And then you've got these other layers of complications because there isn't any sort of tradition, like what do you do with an ex-wife? Like, there's
Yeah.
no protocol there.
I think that, like, I respected his wishes, so I did not attend the funeral because those were his wishes, and, I was not trying to cause a scene. So I didn't. My parents attended and they were, welcomed, and, like, our families got along. Like, there was
Yeah.
never any tension between our families. And so, you know, my parents went and, saw his family, and you know, everyone wished they were under different circumstances. I think it's weird when people start projecting themselves into it and starting to make, it's almost like they get on their high horse or feel like, in order to protect this person's memory, or, it's what they would have wanted. And then, suddenly they're on some crusade, and, and you have to be the target, the bad guy. I think it should be left a lot to what that person chooses to do, and
Yeah.
everybody else does not need to get involved.
Right. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
that,
Mind your own
that
business.
relationship. Yeah, that marriage happened between those two people. Be courteous, be respectful, understand that there is perhaps no right answer and it is a complicated situation. Try to be, if you can't be sympathetic, try to be empathetic. But, like, and things like, it took me even about a solid year to really process his death, to find some semblance of solid closure with it, that I could
Yeah.
really move forward. So at the time of an event like that, no, nobody can figure out how they feel. It takes months and years to process that grief and your emotions about the person in that relationship. They're so complicated.
Yeah. And the change over time as well.
The change is huge, huge. It's like nobody has an answer or the right behavior. Like, it took me years to process his death, and a
Yeah.
solid year before I could really start articulating it with some semblance of, like, distance and objectivity, and at least consistency.
Mhm. Yeah. Really tricky though, as well. Like, I know a lot of people struggle to know what to say when someone's died as well.
I wish that people were more actually just themselves. It's like, I never want to hear the word condolences.
People don't
I
use that
hate,
word like naturally, do they?
no, no. And then suddenly it's the only word anybody knows. And it's like, what is that even? I don't, it is, yeah, it's not part of our vernacular. Suddenly you have we can talk for hours on the phone. And then suddenly someone dies, and all I get is some weird, perfunctory, very cold, almost business-like, my condolence, like, who you are. This would be a good time to start talking. This would be a good time to call. This would
Yeah.
be a good time to show up. And what
Yeah.
really, really surprised me was that it was actually the people. I was living in LA at the time, and I'm not from LA. I was relatively new to the city. But the friends I met in LA, who never even knew, half of them didn't even know I was married before. Like, I'd been
Yeah.
divorced for so many years, but they showed up. They showed up. And, I remember that first night when I found out he passed away. A friend of mine, like, we're not great friends, super close friends. We were better friends there. She can message me whenever she wants. I think she's in Paris now. I don't like, she showed up that night and took me out of my apartment, and we went out to dinner. Like, those friends showed up, but the people who actually knew him, who claimed to be mourning him and so heartbroken, those were the people who showed me the least sympathy and the least empathy. And it was the people who hadn't even known me for a very long time, who were like, I don't even know your ex-husband's name, but I get that this is a complicated thing you're going
Yeah.
through.
Did you come to any sort of conclusion about why they behaved that way?
I just don't think they're people of real integrity. Just think, like, regardless of the education or their careers, I just think that, like, they are mediocre people, and they're kind of the people who just want to, that would never stand out by themselves and take a stand on
Yeah.
anything. They're just like, they're followers. So I think, one person, two people in particular probably, like, started the crusade, and then the rest of them, like sheep, just went along without actually thinking for themselves. How does she feel about this? What is she going through? And
Uh-huh.
I didn't have a falling out with any of them. So, all our friendships, while they hadn't been consistent because I had been in Asia, none of our friendships, like those relationships still stood. You're still attached on, at least three different social networks. It's very obvious how to get a hold of you, plus your phone number, which didn't change.
Yeah.
And, so I was appalled at the lack of integrity and the lack of honor, and just, even just basic manners.
Yeah. I
I
think
was just
sometimes
like,
when,
who raised you? Like, they were
yeah,
raised by hyenas.
if someone feels like they've received more than they've given in a friendship, sometimes they can really turn on you and be nasty because they feel guilty because they
Entitled.
haven't given anything back. So they feel guilty, but they can't accept the guilt onto themselves, so they then project it onto you. Oh, it's her fault. I know
Yeah,
that
I'm
sounds
not even sure.
complicated as well.
I don't even think these are people who would feel guilty. That's the shame
Okay.
of it. That is the shame of it.
Yeah, that
No,
is
I actually
complicated
think
then.
they are just takers.
Yeah.
I think they're takers and climbers.
So how many years ago was that?
That was 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
So still not that long, really.
I mean that, but now I'm like, it's fine. Like, not that, like, we're cool. We're never gonna be cool. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not like, like
They're not your friends now.
there's no coming back from that. But I've moved on,
Yeah.
and like in the process, like, yeah, there were, 3 years ago was a very long time ago,
Yeah.
especially in my life. That was a
Yeah.
very, very long time ago. These have been probably the three most consequential years of my life. So I can't, a lot has happened since, and I have grown tremendously, and so many new people have come into my life. So many amazing new people have come into my life. And the real friends, the old friends, like, they have written it all out with me.
Yeah.
I got a message earlier from a friend, one of my best friends in Lisbon, who I've known since I was 15. Like, I'm good. I got, like, as long as you got some great friends, like, like, you're good. Life is good.
Yeah. It does make a difference when you've got people around you helping you through stuff. Or even just being there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like, you don't need flocks and flocks of people. You can't
Hmm.
actually have real deep friendship with 20 people. Like,
No,
over the course of your life, sure, but like, not simultaneously.
no.
And it's like, you have your local friends, and then, I have other friends that are really at this point around the world, but like, emotionally, if I need them and if they need me, like, how to put, like, the
Yeah.
bat signal, or I call it the cat signal.
The cat signal.
The cat signal. It's like little ears.
Oh yeah, I've just noticed that's a cat behind you.
Yeah, I have a couple. I have a few. I have one next to me as well.
Oh dear.
I love cats. Yeah.
Yeah, I often get disturbed by pets when I'm recording these with guests.
Yeah, dogs are not like cats, especially during the day. Like, they just want to chill anyway.
Yeah. So you said that you've lived all over the world. Where was your favorite place to live?
I've lived in 4 countries, so it's not,
Yeah.
I've lived in a lot of cities as well. I think, I was born in the UK. I've lived all over, originally from London, lived all over the States. I've probably lived in like 6, 7 cities in America, and states. So states are very different here.
Yeah.
And I lived in Thailand for a couple years, and Singapore. I lived in Thailand for about 2, and Singapore for about 7. I did love, it's different. Like, the best food of my life were those years in Thailand. Like, there's
Yeah.
still like nothing has come close to like the food there kind of have. So like food wise, Thailand was my favorite. I think quality of life, though expensive, Singapore, and
Yeah.
certainly how international people are. That was always interesting to see who you'd meet. It was actually the travel. It's not so much the living. Like, I quite like living in South Florida, particularly the new South Florida. I was here from 2004 to 2011, and then I left. And so, really, I only came back 2 years ago. And, particularly Miami is just, a completely new city. So, like, actually, this right now I'm very happy to be back. It's
Yeah.
actually great to be here at this time.
Yeah, you see, all that sounds very exotic because I live in the northeast of England and I've always lived in the northeast of England. I haven't moved outside of like possibly a 10-mile radius where I was born.
But it's beautiful, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
we've got a city nearby, we've got a river, we've got the sea, we're right on the coast.
Oh,
If you go a little bit north, you've got Northumberland's full of green trees and all of that nature. And so we've got beaches and city and we've got everything close by. And we've got a lot of history as well. So yeah, I
yeah,
do
yeah.
like it.
No, it always sounds gorgeous. Whenever you see like a sweeping shot, it feels like some like 007 movie,
Well, that's what I was thinking of when you were talking about Miami. I was thinking of like the films that I've seen.
Yeah, yeah. No, and it is really beautiful. I do like nature a lot. I like being in nature a lot. So I think like that. But like South Florida, you can get enough of it. But I think that kind of breathtaking landscapes, those are hard to come by. And a testament to its beauty that even though you've grown up there your whole life, you still appreciate how beautiful it
Yeah, yeah, I do. I've got the beach, well, the sea at the end of my street, like at the bottom of my street.
is. Wow.
And I usually go for a walk in the morning just to see the sky because it's always different.
Yeah, and there's no replacing a feeling like that.
No, and
And that every morning.
when I was little, I didn't really appreciate growing up there. Like you just, well, it's just how it is kind of thing. But as I grew up and like now I'm a bit older, you do appreciate looking at the sky and,
Yeah.
looking at the sunrise and stuff like that.
I remember I forget what island I was on. I was in Thailand and I was in this like fairly remote area and I was staying at this kind of like, there were bungalows, and, there are lots of like small family
Uh-huh.
places. And so I was staying at this cool little bungalow run by this family. And it was like, the grandmother was running the kitchen. The grandson was there. They were cool. I was there by myself for a while and hanging out. And I remember it was like early in the morning, and the grandmother and she had like come back. It was in the cafe that they run. And her eyes were just like enormous and sparkly and bright and so sharp. And this woman was probably in her 80s. And she had just come back and she was just like, oh, I just saw the sunrise today. And again, this woman grew up there. This woman has seen thousands of sunrises. And the fact that a sunrise could still bring her that much joy, it is just like a testament to just how beautiful this planet
Well,
is.
it's like being there and the emotions that it brings up for you because when you're looking out to sea, when the sun rises on the horizon, you realize how small you are in comparison to the world. And it just, like, if ever I'm like upset about something or I've like got something going on, that's where I'm drawn to. I'll just go and sit on the coast at the beach or like in the car, in a car park overlooking the sea. And like whether it's calm or whether it's rough, or it doesn't matter. It just makes me feel calmer.
The healing properties, even visually,
Hmm.
of water, of the ocean. It's like we
Definitely.
actually, we think we're even the center of this planet. And it's like the ocean is so much bigger than the land that we
Yeah.
inhabit. Like the ocean actually is this planet. The ocean's the heartbeat
Yeah.
of Earth. Like that is what we are. And it's like, I think I've always been fascinated with the ocean. I'm also like, I loved whales growing up. So like, I've always just found the ocean,
Yeah.
you know,
We've actually got dolphins. Couldn't believe it because I think they only started coming about 30 years ago. And I've never ever seen them because I've never made time to just stand there and look for them.
Are they new?
No, no, they've been coming close to where I live for about 30 years. That's when I first heard of them, but I've never ever actually spotted any. But you like see pictures on the local Facebook groups and stuff, like people, the photographers just go and stand and like, or they'll tell each other that they've seen them, and then everybody will just flock to the coast to see the dolphins. And I was driving home from work a couple of weeks ago and I saw them for the first time. I just noticed everybody standing, like looking, and you can tell because everyone's looking in the same direction. And then the car in front of me pulled in and parked up. And then the one that was in front of that one did the same. And I looked and I just saw them breaching. And I was just like, wow, I've seen them.
I'm actually surprised it took 30 years to see them.
I
Dolphins
know.
aren't exactly like blue whales. Like they don't hide.
No, they don't. I don't know what. It's just timing. We get
That's
the Northern
awesome though.
Lights here as well, and I've not seen them here because I just,
Oh,
once I'm in my pajamas, I just like to be on my sofa. But I went to Iceland and saw them there, so
oh my God. Yeah, that's one. That's actually, I haven't done the Northern
that's
Lights.
the
I was
thing though. When you
supposed
live
to, and my
somewhere, you're busy and you're doing stuff, so you can't always just drop everything to go and have a look out to sea. So that's what I put it down to. Anyway, talking about the ocean, you are talking about before we started, you were talking about dating.
yes.
So do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because how long is it since you got divorced?
Oh, so this
Quite a
is
long time.
actually, yeah, it's been a long time. It's been 13 years. I was married in my 20s. So I met him when I was 22. We got married when I was 24. And then I was divorced at 31. So actually, like, I really did it early. And by and large, see, the thing is, it was actually quite a solid marriage, even
Yeah,
though I was not the love of his life and he was not the love of mine, as far as I can tell now in hindsight. But like, actually, a lot of things, it wasn't bad. He was a really good man and he really
yeah,
took very good care of me. And actually, my 20s were quite comfortable,
yeah, that's
and
good.
I did not need to like fend for myself. Like he really took care of me. And so, but then it was like, I started dating in my teens, and that was quite complicated. Because now I was like in Bangkok dating, which is like not would not be my first choice, my
Okay, what
first
is it about
recommendation.
Bangkok then?
I mean, it's just, Bangkok is a very naughty city that a lot of men enjoy.
All right, okay. So it's quite risky then, I would think.
Yeah, it's like there are professional men there as well, but like those lines get blurred very quickly. So you have to really, really have your wits about you. But also, I hadn't dated in my 20s. So it was
Yeah.
like the first time I was dating as an adult was at 31 in Thailand, recently divorced. Like, it was the craziest. That's a mini series. Like, that's a reality show.
Yeah,
But actually, thankfully, it wasn't as treacherous and dangerous as it could have been, and actually, I did have a nice relationship there. But I think, the thing is, people are very different. It's one thing, like, if like yourself, like, if you were to date, maybe, okay, you might know a lot of people, but there might be a lot of similarities. I think what's quite complicated is, even though in one respect it's very interesting when you date people from around the world, and I myself obviously have a very international background, so I never felt American enough for,
uh-huh.
regular Americans, so that like actually a more international crowd was far more my taste. But you underestimate how many differences you really have. And it's like, I think perhaps there's so much pressure on, like, is this the one? Is this the one? Is this the one? But like,
Yeah.
statistically, no, no, they're not the one.
So back then,
Like, that's not how it works.
I'm thinking that back then was probably about the time that dating websites
Yep.
started coming in. So like you, I was married when I was young as well. I think I was 23. I met him when I was 19 and I was 23 when we got married and divorced when I was split up when I was 28.
Yeah.
But so I remember about that time that I had friends who were in a similar position and they were getting divorced as well, and they were using dating. I think there were websites back then, though. I don't
Yeah,
think there were
it
apps
started as,
yet.
yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it just felt really uncomfortable. Like, who are you meet? Like now, it's not like that. You do meet people on the internet all the time, but back then, it's like, well, who are you going to meet, and what kind of person uses that kind of tool to meet someone? Is it someone who just can't get a date from any other way? Do you know what I mean? Can you can you remember
But
that time?
I remember that time. And I think a lot, and as it turns out, a lot of those, initial sort of judgments were wrong,
Uh-huh.
thankfully. And it actually, like, it was really quite helpful in a lot.
Uh-huh.
I did meet a lot of men on dating apps and
Yeah.
websites. And I think, like, yeah, people were very judgmental about it. And the
Yeah.
truth is, like, some people's circles are small. If your friends aren't introducing you to people, as a woman, it's not as common that you ask a man out,
Yeah.
so like, I think like overall, it opened up dating, but then it sort of like blew the doors open. And then we
Uh-huh.
were like, it turned into
Like too
a
much
zoo.
choice.
Yeah, and now it's like, and then those obviously then you have to look at the actual like revenue models and like what was really in
Yeah.
the app's best interest and what were they really trying to accomplish. And and actually a lot, I still think like this is the one area that is technologically advanced as we are and is predictive as we think our science is. Like compatibility can still not be, it cannot be measured. It cannot really, I think your friends are better at predicting compatibility because
Yeah.
there's something so intangible and almost pheromonal
Uh-huh.
that they can think that, yeah, she'll like him and he'll like her. But like, otherwise, I think the apps are still like quite clunky and messy and how compatible they really are. And then,
You can't measure chemistry. You know what I mean? It's just impossible. So I'm speaking as a complete like outsider when it comes to dating apps and websites and stuff because I just haven't ever used them because I met my husband who I'm with now. We've been together 21 years this year and we met at work. So it was a complete
nice.
surprise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a complete surprise when I realized that, you know what I mean? It was sort of developing. So like I haven't got anything to sort of compare it to, but I just feel like, when you're with someone in the room, you can just look up and it can take you by surprise. But you're actually on a dating app or website, you've got to actually think about looking and think about what you want and all that stuff. And you have to sort of have some criteria because otherwise you've got all these choices. That's really a nightmare to wade through, I would guess.
What was fun for me was that like I did it to I just like meeting interesting
Yeah,
people. So like a lot of times I was going on dates, not really thinking this was going to lead to anything, but thinking like, all right, he looks interesting. He seems funny. And like some good friends have come out of dating apps. They've introduced me to other people. They've introduced me to other
yeah,
like so actually like a decent part of my social life and just sort of meeting people and also like getting to know different cities, like getting to know different restaurants. Just like I like
yeah,
talking to interesting people.
yeah,
I will do that whenever I can. So it was like socially dating apps were pretty cool.
yeah.
Apps are actually pretty damn cool.
I think if I was single now, that would work quite well for me because I feel quite confident about meeting people I don't know because I've got a business and, you have to learn how to go networking and meet people you've never met before.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm much more confident of that. Thinking about back then, like when might have been single, but actually didn't really have any time single. If I was having a date then, I wouldn't have felt confident. And the reason that I had those ideas about dating websites and apps is partly because it was new, but also because I wasn't really very confident and I was concerned about what might happen. And it was more fear than
Yeah.
excitement.
Yeah. Which
My
is a
outlook was
shame.
different then. Yeah.
Which is like that's a shame because actually like there's a lot of by and large, like nothing horrendous has ever really happened. Like
Yeah.
even though those instances do happen and there are
Yeah,
horror stories. Thankfully, I have generally met like pretty cool people.
yeah. You have to just have your wits about you. It's the same as like any night out, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that like that is, and you talk to the person for a bit in advance, you at least Google them to make sure that they actually exist. You like make sure
yeah,
you get a surname. Like there's some, protocols.
yeah. Absolutely. So, what was the most awkward date you had then? Can you think of any fun stories to tell us?
Oh, God. I don't even know who like there have actually been some terrible like there have been a couple really, really bad ones. But bad not because like they've been scary. One, I was like set up with this hedge fund manager, and I should have known better. This is not like a high quality pool. Like this is a pool of sociopaths, psychopaths, and narcissists with mommy issues. And we had been chatting. We had talked on the phone. We had chatted, and he shows up, and I don't, I, I don't know what I was expecting, but this guy was like, looked like a munchkin, and like kind of had this like top on and like this weird jewelry, and then like proceeded. And unfortunately, we had a reservation at this like restaurant that had like a tasting menu. So it wasn't even like a regular like dinner that would have basically, you could have like slid out in about an hour ish, give or take.
Yeah,
This dinner took like over 2 hours of like 8 fucking courses of him telling me the most narcissistic stories, of basically name dropping whenever he could, and then trying to tell stories that he tried to tell me the story of this movie, and then proceeded to, it's like it was clear he didn't even know who the actors were. What was it? Slumdog Millionaire. And he didn't even know who the main actors were, and he tried to act like he saw something in the movie that no one on other and on earth. It was horrific. I had like 3 glasses of champagne, and it was the most unbearable date with a narcissistic hobbit.
dear.
It was horrible. Yeah, not. And my friends, I told my friends that story in a lot more detail. I'm not doing a good job of it now, but like literally, they have never let me live that one down. It's fine. I deserve it.
What was the best thing about the dating app then?
I mean, I did meet some, even though I'm not with them anymore, there were some great men that have come out of them. No, though some of those men have like, was it a relationship with some of them? Sometimes was it, but like some amazing friendships. I would say two of my closest male friends are men I met on dating apps. One in
Yeah,
particular who really is like one of my ride or dies, probably like my closest male friend. So
yeah,
I would say, like, even if you come out with a couple good friendships, or like, for me, that's what they've been best for.
yeah, yeah. I know like the younger generation just don't think anything of it. Me and each other, they just use them. So I've got a son who's coming up to 30. Is he? What year is it? Yeah, he'll be 30 in February, coming up next year. And he met his fiance on a dating app. So yeah, and she's from Mauritius, but she lives in the UK. So yeah,
Thanks.
so we're having a
Lovely.
Mauritius wedding and one in the northeast as well. So we're having two
That's
weddings.
fabulous. What a
I
juxtaposition.
know. So I'm really
Very
excited.
cool.
But my husband won't travel, so he's not coming to the Mauritius wedding. It's just going to be me and them and her family, obviously.
Okay. All right. Wow.
So
All right.
him and his family will come to the one here, and then
Yeah.
I'm gonna be at both.
Okay. Wow. All right.
Yeah, so I have to, if I want to travel, I have to. He doesn't care if I go on my own. He just has no interest whatsoever in traveling at all. He just doesn't want to.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Well, at least he lives in a place he loves.
oh yeah, he does. That's what he says. I don't want to go anywhere else. I like it at home.
Okay. All right. Hey, and to each their own. If he's happy, I'm happy for him.
Yeah. So, what else have you done with your life then? Where shall we go next? I'm sure you've got much more interesting stuff to talk about as well.
What would you like to talk about?
What sort of things do you do in your career?
You mean when I was corporate?
Yeah, or now?
Well, I mean, now I am focusing on content. I was doing some independent consulting as well, and that, for the right project, I might be convinced, and that's basically that was my corporate life as an organizational psychologist and corporate
Yes, of course.
strategist. So, that would be like turnarounds. Like I like working with smaller companies. I don't really like doing the big corporate stuff, but like turnarounds on smaller companies is a lot of fun. But right now I'm really exploring content and, I'm pursuing some different interests as well and deciding how I want to take this journey moving forward.
Yeah, you're kind of exploring where the
Yeah.
direction you want to go
Yeah,
in.
yeah. No, I'm completely in an exploratory mode right now.
Yeah, that can be quite tricky. So I decided to set up a business about 10 years ago. Well, it'd be more than that now, 11 years ago. And
Nice.
basically it kind of went a little bit like that. It was a bit of a roller coaster for a few years until I kind of got me flow. Do you know what I mean? It took us a few years to get into the gist of what I wanted to do and how I was going to do it and all of that. We've had a domiciliary care business for 6 years now, a bit longer, like in the setting up before that. And so we employ about 80 staff ish.
Wait, so is that for elderly? I'm not really familiar with the
So
term.
yeah, domiciliary, nobody has heard of it, to be fair. It's like home care. So we employ people to go out and help people to live independently in their homes. So it
That
can
is
be elderly or
genius.
young people with disabilities and stuff like that. So it's helping them getting washed and dressed and meals and medication and taking them out and stuff like that. So yeah, so we employ about 80 people and we have over 100 clients. So it's
That is
quite
a
big.
lot of, that is a serious operation, and that
And
is very hands-on. It's not like you're at a location, you're doing home visits with
yeah,
individuals. How do you manage the
well,
operations and the coordination?
so we have a team of people who are based in one place who work together to sort of schedule the work and make sure everybody's happy, which is hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to
Yeah.
upset everyone, but it's really hard to keep everyone happy. But yeah, thankfully I don't have to manage all the staff or anything. We've got a team doing all that. So we've got registered manager who oversees the whole thing, and we've got a like a rostering coordinator, so he schedules all the work. And we've got someone in finance who, looks at the money and stuff, makes sure we get paid.
You start this from scratch?
I did. I think I was a bit
Oh my
naive
God. Oh my
because if
God.
I'd known what it was going to be like, what it was going to be like to set up, I probably wouldn't have done it. But once I was in, I was like, well, we've got to keep going, otherwise, like, my life's over because it's going to all crash and ruin everybody. So I have to keep going now. So I did, and it worked.
Oh, what was that turning point? How many years were you into that?
It was probably um a year when it started to get easier, which
Bad?
isn't very long, but we had to make it because otherwise it would have folded basically. We managed well, it was basically going into all the lockdowns. We were less, what was it? We started in the like properly in the July 2019. So in the March, it was less than a year old, but we got a big package and that kind of helped us through.
Wow.
And we just grew from then because like all the other way, all every other business was closed. We were keeping going and we managed to attract enough staff and stuff like that. So yeah, it was really stressful and a bit of a nightmare, if I'm honest. Massive roller coaster. Like, my husband isn't very entrepreneurial, so he nearly had kittens. Like, I mean, it was stressful for me, but he like
And then
really
you're
struggled.
managing, yeah, and then you're managing somebody who's even more panicked.
Yeah. So I was basically holding everybody together as well. Like, it's fine, we're just gonna do this,
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was quite. Yeah.
I
But
think in those
thankfully,
circumstances, like a lot of women become that woman.
basically work had the right team because and I've recruited a lot of staff who didn't work out for various reasons and partly because I was inexperienced and it wasn't all their fault, it was mine as well. And it's still something that I find tricky if I have to employ someone
Yeah,
and manage them and stuff like that.
for sure.
But the team that we've got are that
Yeah. No,
what they're doing. And
you
we
get
help, but
smarter. You do get smarter, but like even recently, like I made some mistakes
they're
with
always expensive, aren't they?
their expense, and you know what it was? And then I realized there was somebody very, very similar that I had basically given way too many chances to in LA when I was doing my startup. And I realized was complete, just like full of BS. And then like I was like, at least I recognized it faster.
Yeah, yeah.
But
We've had loads of that as well.
yeah, I really, those mistakes are, learn them fast.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
But there's always
Yeah.
another one you can make.
Yeah, but make a better one. Make it.
I know, but you don't know what you don't know,
No, I
and
know.
basically, if I'd known what it was going to take, I wouldn't have tried because it was just too big. And like now that that business is stable, I'm also a counselor, so I'm kind of building that up and me
What are
podcast
you
and
not
stuff.
doing? You are what time
Yeah,
do
but
you
I'm not doing like loads of counseling, partly because I don't want to, but also because I haven't got time.
Yeah.
But I've got
No, I would
got a
think
team
not.
of counselors who are like students on placement, so I support them. Um, but they're really easy to manage because they're like just like need me to get counseling clients for them and make sure they're not too hard. Yeah, so now that that's stable, I'm building this, but I don't want to take any massive risks. Like no more massive risks. I can't cope with it. I just need to grow what we've already got.
Yeah. I mean, like that's also, being risk averse is also, a very wise strategy. Like you cannot just keep, you should protect what you've already
Yeah,
built. Like that is
absolutely.
also, it is reckless
Uh-huh.
and immature a lot of times just to constantly want to take one risk after another.
Uh-huh.
Law of
Like this,
averages will let you know that like eventually like you take a couple too many big swings, you're gonna miss.
yeah. I've there's lots of things that I would like to do, but it's not right time. It just doesn't feel like I'd really like to do, like maybe get into property or something, but it's just no, it's just too much. I've got enough on my plate, so yeah.
Yeah, when one thing rolls off, then you can go into something else later.
So yeah, so you've built a few businesses as well before now.
Not particularly successfully. I have attempted.
But that's all learning, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think part of that is also learning, knowing what you are good at and knowing what you're not good at. And really like not trying to do the things you're not good at. I am not the type of person I can turn around businesses. I can definitely scale them. I am not the one not if they really need like a lot of deep technology or just like heavy operations and project management. I'm not that person.
Yeah.
I can actually like I'm good with strategy, I'm good with sales, I'm good with a bunch of other things, communications, but like this I am not that person. Um yeah, and I learned as you do most of the time you learn things the hard way. But now I only focus on what I'm good at and I bring in help early.
Yeah, this is the thing because when you're building a business, like you have to do everything in the beginning and it forces you to and you learn what you're not so good at because you're exposed to all of it and all the consequences of when you don't do it. When you don't know something or you don't, you know what I mean? When you make a mistake or whatever, or you make the wrong decision, you're exposed to the whole lot. It just is right there, raw at you, like straight away. You're not protected by anything.
Yeah. No, it is. It is very, very scary. And legally, if you don't have a background in a lot of those things, they can really make your stomach turn.
Yeah, definitely. So you just is it just like building a business for yourself rather than hiring loads of people? Is that your aim?
I think there will, right now, as I'm experimenting and growing very piecemeal and very naturally and organically, I'm basically bringing people in. Um, there's a lot you can do with freelancers.
Yeah,
Often, like, these aren't full-time jobs.
yeah,
These are jobs that need to be filled, but like a lot of people are freelancing their services as well, or just have a small amount of clients. And so I think, I've teed up people in advance. Maybe not everyone I need, but like I already know some of the go-to people and
yeah,
they've already been lined up. So I think knowing people in advance helps a lot.
yeah. It
But
really does.
it depends. Like, obviously, we're in very different types of businesses, like, between like home care and, content creation. Like, those are completely different business models as well.
Yeah, but I'm involved. So basically, like the podcast started because, well, it's a long story, but I got involved in the podcast because I wanted to keep talking about stuff that I stood in the election, in the general election last year for a small party for women's rights, and I wanted to keep talking about the issues. So I started the podcast and I thought, but in order to make it work, I really needed to promote my counselling as well and like promote that. So
Right.
that's the aim of the podcast is to meet interesting people, which is definitely happening. And that's why I've got my map
Yeah.
up here because like I don't know where anything is, so now I can look it up, and also to promote what I'm doing. So it's like raising my
Yeah. Yeah.
profile as well, and I'm
You know
finding
it.
that it's really working.
No, I'm happy for you. You know what you should
Yeah,
do is every time you should put a pin. Every
yeah,
time you have a guest, put pins all over your map, and
yeah,
then people can see like where your guests have been from.
yeah. That would be a good thing to do. Um, I'm slightly like, oh, I can't put holes in my map.
No, or put a sticker on it. Put something on it.
Yeah, actually,
Get little stickers.
yeah, that might work better because you can peel
Yeah.
them off, can't you? Yeah, I
Yeah,
might do that. Well, Padmini, it's been lovely talking to you. We've had a
yeah. You
really
too.
interesting
I know
conversation.
we went in a couple different directions, but no, thank you so much for having me. This was
And
such a
you, is there
pleasure.
anything that you wanted to promote before we close the
Yeah,
podcast?
I really, like I said at the beginning, my YouTube channel, which is really where I'm experimenting and telling a lot of my stories about my life and the things I've learned and the people I've met, is Pieces of Miss Minnie. That's MISSMINI, and it's on YouTube. And you can also follow me with that same handle on Instagram as well. So,
Brilliant.
yeah,
Thanks so much for coming on. It's been lovely talking to you.
thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.